authority under which John Merrick filed a complaint as the town chairman of the town of Waukesha with the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, Division of Legal Services and Compliance. This was requested by resident Angie Van Stock. I did in fact file a complaint with the Department of Professional Services against our two auditors, our two CPAs from Clifton Larson Allen, Renee Messing and Jake Linnell. As I've said previously, in the years 2010, 2011, 2012, the town simply did not perform budget amendments. We had been overspent by several hundred thousands of dollars in those years, on attorney's fees specifically. Town's ordinances and state statutes are very, very clear. Section 3-1-4 of the town ordinance states, "No money shall be drawn from the treasury of the town, nor shall any obligation for the expenditure of money be incurred, except in pursuance of the annual appropriation in the adopted budget, or when changed as authorized in Section 3-3 of this chapter." Section 3-3 says, "The adopted budget shall not be changed after approval of the budget, except on the recommendation of the chairperson and a roll call vote of 2/3 of the entire membership of the town board." In this case, that would be 4 out of 5 supervisors. In 2010 and 2011 and 2012, the town of Waukesha performed no budget amendments. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars outside of the appropriated amounts. Section 3-1-9 of our town code, which is, and all of these are parroted within state statutes also. Disbursements from the town treasury shall be made under Section 66042. That statute number has been changed, but the verbiage is the same. No claim, amount, or demand for payment against the town shall be paid until a voucher has been filed and prepared with the town clerk. Each check representing a disbursement or transfer of town funds must be signed, and each check must also be signed by the chairperson. And it goes on to say that we can't even write a check until the funds are in the account for those specific line items. That has never happened in 2010 or 2011 or 2012. I have communication from Renee Messing, one of our auditors, who at one point says that we need to do budget amendments on a current basis. She goes on to state that the attorney bills are a good example of that. Then we have from Jake Linnell, one of our other CPAs. We have a question from town staff: can we do budget amendments in January or after the audits? And his comment is, it'll take me a moment to find it. You can do budget amendments in January or even after the audit. So his suggestion is that we perform budget amendments and change the dollars in the closed and audited books of the town of Waukesha after the audit. That's clearly not in line with the town's ordinances or the state statutes. So my complaint to the Department of Safety and Professional Services was that we were getting advice from our auditor that instructed the town to ignore the laws of the state of Wisconsin and the ordinances of the town of Waukesha. And during the same time that Clifton Larson Allen was responsible for the audits in the town of Waukesha, they were also acting as our financial advisor. Clearly a conflict of interest. I recently received, the town received a communication from Clifton Larson Allen's general counsel asking me to withdraw that complaint. I offered that I would withdraw any part of the complaint that he called baseless, that he could tell me was not based entirely in fact. If he could tell me that we in fact did budget amendments in 2010 or 2011 or 2012, or that Clifton Larson Allen was not acting also as our financial advisor, or perhaps that they did not tell us to do budget amendments after the fact. The town's association attorney has also weighed in on this and has told us that budget amendments must be done prior to the funds being spent. We cannot incur an expense. We cannot even incur the expense until the budget has been amended, and that's why we do those things up here, and we have been doing them since April 18th. Ms. Van Sock, you put this on the agenda, and I'll allow you to weigh in on that.
The appropriate way to do that is to call the person who actually.
Ms. Van Sock, I'll allow you to weigh in on it, and I'm not going to allow you to browbeat me. And that's just the way it's going to be tonight.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm on the agenda. My statements will be factual. And if you feel browbeaten, that's your issue, not mine. Mr. Merrick, you have clearly stated that you admit that you made this complaint, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As chairman of the town of Waukesha,
Yes.
representing the town of Waukesha. And I'm pretty active as a former chair, planning commission member, and town board member, or excuse me, town board resident, town resident. And I haven't seen this particular issue on any agenda. And so my question to you is, under what authority were you able, as town chairman of the town of Waukesha, to sign a document to make such a complaint?
I'll answer your question. Section 2-3-4, sub 4, under powers and duties of the town board chairperson, had assure administration of statutes, supervise the administration of the Wisconsin statutes relating to the town and town operations to see that they are faithfully executed. Act on behalf of the board to see that town orders and ordinances are obeyed. Ms. Van Sock, under your administration, we did not obey the ordinances of the town of Waukesha or the statutes of the state of Wisconsin in the years 2010, 2011, or 2012 with regards to budget amendments and expenditures of the town of Waukesha. And therefore, I made a complaint to the State Department of Safety and Professional Services as well as the Wisconsin Institute of CPAs against Clifton Larson Allen's 2 CPAs that assisted the town in performing those duties. Mr. Vansky.
Am I able to make any statement?
You will, I just recognize Mr. Vansky, you can, in a moment.
So your complaint was filed then as an official action on behalf of the town of Waukesha? Is that correct?
Yes.
I would offer a motion by way of resolution then, given that statement. Whereas on November 2nd, 2013, John Merrick executed an official complaint form with the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services Division of Legal Services and Compliance against Jacob Linnell, CPA, who is employed by Clifton Larson Allen, LLP. Whereas on November 2nd, John Merrick executed an official complaint form with the Wisconsin Department of Safety Professional Services Division of Legal Services and Compliance against Renee Messing, CPA, who is employed by Clifton Larson Allen, LLP. Whereas on page 1 of 3 of each complaint, John Merrick completes the complainant identification section as John Merrick, Chairman, Town of Waukesha, and has provided that information in such a way as to determine that his filing was not as John Merrick as an individual, but as the chairman of the town of Waukesha. Whereas both complaints above are endorsed John Merrick, Chairman, Town of Waukesha. Whereas the town of Waukesha clerk's office stamped a copy as received November 4th, 2013. Whereas based on agenda and minutes for the town board of Waukesha, there appears to have never been a discussion on the filing of any such complaint. Whereas based on agenda and minutes for the town board of Waukesha, there appears to have never been authorization from the town board for the chairman, John Merrick, to file any such complaint. Whereas on November 7th, 2013 was the first date the complaints were provided to the full membership of the town board of supervisors. Whereas town ordinance section 2-3-2 sub B, charge of actions states, and I quote, "The town board has charge of any action or legal proceeding to which the town is a party." whereas Town Ordinance Section 2-3-4, Sub A, Sub 5, Act on behalf of the board states that, and again I quote, "The town board chairperson shall act on behalf of the board to see that town orders and ordinances are obeyed, see that peace and order are maintained in the town, obtain necessary assistance if available in case of emergency except under Chapter 166 of the state statutes. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Waukesha through the Board of Supervisors declares that at no time did the town board authorize John Merrick to act on behalf of the town of Waukesha to execute or file any action against Jacob Linnell or Renee Messing. Be it further resolved that the town board of supervisors for the town of Waukesha declares the execution and subsequent filing of each complaint is contrary to the statutory authority granted to the chairman and is inconsistent in the manners and duties of any discretionary power granted to the chairman by state law or town ordinance. And be it further resolved that the town board of supervisors hereby demands that Chairman John Merrick withdraw the complaint prior to 5 p.m. Monday, November 18th, 2013. A copy of the withdrawal request shall be delivered to all interested parties by certified mail, dated this 14th day of November, 2013, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, Mr. Bansky, that's very nice, except for one thing. It says here that I am responsible to see that the town orders and ordinances are obeyed. And the town of Waukesha in 2010, 2011, and 2012, of which you were part of those boards, Mr. Bansky, did not obey the rules and the regulations with regards to budget amendments. You overspent, specifically with attorney's fees, by hundreds of thousands of dollars with no appropriation to do so. And that is why the complaint was made.
The ordinance in which you reference is as your current acting as chairman, you are tasked, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, to make sure that the ordinances are followed at the time that you raised your hand and took the oath of office. Not reaching back, you are not the police, reaching back saying that 2 years ago something happened. That is a position and a right that belongs to the town board as described in the previous ordinance, and is not your right to act or take that right from us.
So, Mr. Bansky, would you then ask me to simply make the complaint about the 2012 audit that was completed under this town board? Is that what you're asking? It makes no difference to me. The same rules and the same regulations were broken by you and Ms. Van Stock and the previous board. Mr. Fisher.
We can sit here all night long on this issue and others and just play pin the tail on the donkey, if that's what everybody thinks is worth your time. I'm far more interested in the substance of the issues. State Statute 60.43, you've all got that in your packets under financial audits, says, in part, the town board, that's 5 people sitting up here, shall arrange for an audit of the town financial records at least once each year. We're sitting here in the middle of November. We do not have an audit opinion yet for 2012. I'm going to ask all of you to take a step back, stop playing pin the tail on the donkey, and basically shoulder up to our responsibilities. How are we going to solve the very significant problem that we do not have an audit opinion for 2012? That's our responsibility as board members, not to participate in these endless, unproductive, and nonsensical food fights. It's ridiculous.
I'd like to have
Mr.
something to
Laska,
say on
I
that.
haven't recognized you, ma'am.
Please
Mr.
do,
Laska.
this is my choice on the board.
Ma'am, you have not been recognized. Mr. Laska.
I pass to this Van Sock right now. I'll come back with my comment.
Mr. Van Stock.
Mr. Fisher, how incredibly disingenuous of you to claim.
Do not attack individual board members, ma'am.
No one is attacking Mr. Merrick. These are statements of fact. I've listened to Mr. Fisher's facts this evening, and so I'd like to share a few of my own. That's allowed, correct?
As long as they're facts.
Real facts. Mr. Fisher, You were a member of this board when I asked multiple times for budget amendments to be completed. You refused. I indicated to you at that time, and other board members here recognized, that I shared with you, you are creating havoc for the town. You are creating an issue for the town. You are going to be keeping our financial statements from being done. It will create an issue. And you poo-pooed, for political purposes in my opinion, that effort. Immediately after the election, you approved the very same budget amendments. Unfortunately, at that point, I was no longer in office. So we would have had our audit earlier than ever in this community had you not stymied that process. And you can listen to the tapes. I'd be happy to play them for you. I'm very familiar with them. The fact of the matter is,
Excuse me, Ms. Van Stock, point of order. First of all, Mr. Fisher did not approve the very same budget amendment that you had put in front of the town board.
Okay.
Moreover, the budget amendment that you are referring to was an after-the-fact budget amendment that multiple attorneys have weighed in on that say you cannot do a budget amendment after having spent the money. The money had already been spent, and you wanted to go back in time and do it afterwards, into the next year. That is not what our town ordinances say. That is not what the state statutes say. You must do a budget amendment prior to purchasing or incurring any obligation. Prior to incurring an obligation. Ma'am, that is not what you had intended to do. That is not what you were attempting to do with the budget amendment after the first of the year.
are you done, Mr. Mayor? I mean, I've heard you 100 times, okay? You are not understanding the issue. It started last December. I know you're going to continue to say the same thing. But if you're going to hold everyone accountable, and you've been advised that many municipalities do it. Mr. Merrick,
No,
please
ma'am, I'm not
me
gonna
finish.
let you spout off that many municipalities do budget amendments after the
All
fact,
right,
because
let's
it's
talk
simply
about-
not true. Ma'am, you're not gonna shout over me either.
Well,
Mr.
may I
Fisher,
finish
your
my
hand was up
statement?
first.
There was a hand.
I understand.
Sure.
Mr. Fisher, your hand was
Let her
up.
finish, go ahead, and I'll speak after you finish. Go ahead, I'll extend that courtesy to
I
you.
appreciate that,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Fisher. Let's talk about the town of Waukesha. The town of Waukesha traditionally never completed a budget amendment until at least March of the following year. The town attorney was well aware of that and participated in that and provided advice. The town did not do budget amendments. The town had, while Michaeline Knable was both treasurer and secretary, are you stopping me or are you? Okay. Just wondering, I'm kind of sensitive to that now. Had the same company provide financial information as well as the audit. That was absolutely against ordinance. That company did the financial statements. We were not capable of doing that here. They provided the budget amendments after the year. Then they decided that it would be cheaper to do all of this auditing in October and November of the year, and things got done even later. The
Ma'am,
reality,
Ms.
please
Van
let me
Stock,
finish,
no, because
Mr.
you're
Merrick.
making comments that simply aren't accurate. You have no particular information
I
that
have
are.
information
that-
right here, would you like to see
You have
it?
no particular
What
information
date would you like?
telling us that the Rotroff Jeanson Agency was also our financial advisor.
Yes, I
They
do,
did
I have
things-
minutes of the
They
meeting that
did,
indicate
ma'am, you
that.
cannot talk over me. They did things that were simply not the way that has been done here since 2010, and I'm not gonna accept what you're saying is factual. It simply is not.
How do you know that it's not factual, Mr.
Because I
Merrick?
have looked into it, Ms. Van
Would
Sock.
you like to see the minutes of the meeting?
Ma'am, I've been through it.
Would you
and
like
no-
to see
No,
them?
ma'am, I do not wanna see your facts.
These are facts from the town
Ma'am, I
website.
have the real facts. That's what I'm after.
Are these your facts or
Mr.
these
Fisher, you
facts?
had a comment to make. Ms. Van Stock, I think we're done with the commentary at this point.
No, you're calling me a liar, Mr. Merrick,
No,
and I don't
ma'am.
appreciate that.
No, I have not called anybody a liar.
You
I'm
have
telling
told
you-
me that the documents I've
Ma'am,
offered
have a
to you
seat, or
are not
ma'am,
correct.
have a seat.
Please withdraw
Ma'am,
your
have a
comments.
seat.
Mr. Merrick?
Last chance, Ms. Van Stock, have a seat or leave the building.
If,
Mr. Fisher.
I'm not gonna engage in the kind of personal attacks that you did of me, Ms. Van Sock. But I will tell you this, for my part, being on this board since April of 2011, I get big enough shoulders and I'm willing to admit my part, and I've done it before, for not having clean hands, for having had done it wrong. Okay? And the reason that I stood in the doorway last spring, when you and others tried repeatedly to do those budget amendments after the fact, after we were more than $100,000 overspent for legal fees, the reason I did that is because it's a violation of town ordinances, of state statutes. And I got broad enough shoulders to say we were doing it wrong and I'm part responsible for it. I will tell you now, I am incredibly proud of this board, of Clerk Treasurer Salentine, because for you who's been attending the meetings and other people, we've been doing it right for the last 4 or 5 months. We did some budget amendments, I think, in July. We're doing it correctly. We're following town ordinances, we're following state statutes, and for that, I thank everyone, and I will compliment and commend my fellow members of the present board and Clerk Treasurer Salentine. We've gotten to a better day. Why don't you have some joy in doing it right for a change and stop trying to run people down? Thank you.
Mr. Vansky, you had a comment.
Hate to sound like a broken record, but it was a point of order. The question in front of the board is the authority under which John Merrick filed a complaint. We're rehashing what we did, when we did it, how we did it. That's not the question. The question is possible action regarding the authority under which John Merrick filed a complaint.
Well, let's get the town attorney on record then. Hector De La Mora, Section 2-3-4, Sub 4, assure administration of state statutes. The town chairperson's duties are to supervise the administration of the Wisconsin statutes relating to the town and town operations, to see that they are faithfully executed and act on behalf of the board, to see that town orders and ordinances are obeyed. Mr. De La Mora, did the town of Waukesha obey state statutes and town ordinances when they overspent without authority, without budget appropriation, by hundreds of thousands of dollars, specifically in attorney's fees?
My point
And
of
is
order
it
still
within,
stands.
and was it within the town chairperson's authority to act on behalf of the board in order to address those issues that were perhaps done unlawfully?
What is your question?
Am I within my authority? What?
I am not here to read the town ordinances to you. I think you have read them. I think the discussion that has occurred here reflects a difference of opinion, and I am not in a position to resolve that dispute for you.
I don't want you to resolve a dispute. You are not here to read sections of the town ordinances to me. I agree. You are here for your legal opinion as the town attorney of the town of Waukesha. And town ordinance section 2-3-4 sub 4 says that the town chairman is to assure administration of state statutes, supervise the administration of the Wisconsin statutes relating to the town and town operations, to see that they are faithfully executed. Sub 5, act on behalf of the board to see that town orders and ordinances are obeyed. I have a two-part question for you, as I've already stated. Were town ordinances and state statutes obeyed when we overspent by hundreds of thousands of dollars, specifically in the category of legal fees in 2010, 2011, and 2012, and then, specific to section 2-3-4, sub 4 and sub 5, is it within the chairman's responsibility to make sure that those rules and regulations have been obeyed and act on behalf of the board? That's my question for you.
My answer is that I am recusing from answering that for reasons that are known to you.
I do not know those reasons.
Well, if you profess not to...
No, I'm
that's
sorry, what
regrettable.
reasons are they? Please, Hector, educate all of us here why you are not acting in the best interest of the town and telling us what we can and cannot do and what I can and cannot do with, as relates to the ordinances that I've just read to you. Answer a simple question, please.
It is not a simple question, and you've gotten my answer.
I haven't gotten an answer. You haven't answered. You have not answered us.
So be it.
Then what are you here for? Why are we paying you $150 an hour when you can't give us legal advice?
Paul,
I would make a call the vote motion, please.
Call the vote. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Wolf,
What is the motion?
for the resolution that Supervisor
Motion is to-
Bansky
Oh,
read in.
okay. Yes.
Chairman Merrick,
No.
Supervisor Laska,
yes.
Supervisor Bansky,
Yes.
Supervisor Fisher,
No.
motion approved.